Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I have the Jane Austen Heroines tag. Pretty good. I'm experimenting with an affogato. Not too bad, not too bad. Charlene at Coffee and a Book and I, as part of our 250th birthday celebration, Jane Austen's 250th birthday celebration, we are creating some special content throughout the year. And this month, what we are doing is a Jane Austen tag. Now, Jane Austen tags have definitely been done before. I have done Jane Austen tags even earlier this year. So has Charlene. So have many of you. There are tags about you and your relationship with Jane Austen and her works. There are tags about Jane Austen's heroes. There are tags about Jane Austen's books. There are tags about the houses in Jane Austen's books. But today, we are going to do a tag focused solely on the heroines, the female protagonists of Jane Austen's stories. So let's get started. First of all, we have, of course, Lizzy, probably her most famous heroine from Pride and Prejudice. And the prompt is a book that makes you laugh, because Lizzy herself declares in the story that she does love to laugh. And Pride and Prejudice, the book itself, is definitely prone to making you laugh. So the book that I chose is actually one that I just read for the second time yesterday. And it's a play. And it is related to Jane Austen. It is Lover's Vows by Elizabeth Inchbald. Actually, Elizabeth Inchbald adapted it from a German play. I forget the name of the German author or playwright. And I'm not exactly sure how much she changed. I do think that she changed it significantly enough that it kind of became her own work. But anyway, it is quite humorous. I said in a recent video that it has a tone similar to Oscar Wilde, if you have read his plays like An Ideal Husband or The Importance of Being Earnest. It has a similar tone to that and a similar sense of humor. It has a fairly small cast of characters. It's a pretty quick, easy read. The audiobook version is only 2 hours. There is a LibriVox version, and there's also, I've heard, a very good version available on Audible to hear, to listen to read. And also you can get it on Project Gutenberg. Also, I'm pretty sure that you can purchase it on Kindle. It's not very widely performed nowadays, and most people only know it if they've read Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, because it is heavily featured in Mansfield Park. But it is a fun read. It's a quick read, and it will definitely make you laugh. Unless you just don't have a sense of humor, and then I guess you're out of luck. Our next heroine is Jane. And she kind of shares the spotlight with Lizzy. Now, Lizzy's definitely the primary female protagonist in that story, but Jane gets some of the spotlight herself and is a key part of the plot. So we have a prompt for her, and that is a book with a satisfying ending. Because in Pride and Prejudice, like Lizzy, Jane enjoys a very satisfying ending to her story, although it's not without its bumps in the road, for sure. So I actually found this kind of difficult because I was scrolling through the books that I've read on Goodreads, just thinking about this prompt and trying to come up with a book that had a satisfying ending. And the funny thing was, 90% of the books where I particularly remembered the ending, how it ended, 90% of them, the ending was not fully satisfying. There was always something about the ending that was like, I mean, not that the book should have ended any other way. Like, they were ended well according to the story that the author was trying to say. I'm not saying that they were poorly written in that sense or that I disagreed with the endings. It's just there were things about the endings that left you a little bit unsatisfied as the reader for one reason or another. And the ones that I'm sure probably were quite satisfying endings, I couldn't remember exactly how they ended, other than, the genre fiction or the romances, the couple gets together, whatever. So I had a really hard time coming up with one, but then I thought of one. And I am unique in my opinion, I think, sometimes, because for many people who have read this book, they love it, but they do find the ending a little bit contrived. For myself, I disagree. I think the ending is perfect, and I would have hated the book. I would have hated the book with a passion if it had ended in any other way. So for me, this book, the ending is what makes the book what it is, and the ending is incredibly satisfying for me as a reader personally. And that book is When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. And like I said, many people feel that the ending is a very contrived, but here's the thing. I don't think so, because I think this is what Gabrielle Meyer was planning from the beginning of the story, and she set it up so that it could be possible, so that the ending could be possible. Like, she purposely structured her story. She structured the time travel. I don't want to say too much, but she set it all up to make the ending possible within the context of this story. So I don't think it's contrived. I'm not in that camp. I understand that the people who do say that. And I don't like contrived endings as a general rule, but this one worked for me. And for me, if it would have ended in any other way, I would have hated it. So When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. Moving on to Sense and Sensibility, where again we have two female protagonists who share the stage and the spotlight, and the first being Elinor. Elinor, who represents the sense in Sense and Sensibility, and therefore the prompt is a book that made you think. And this book I read earlier this year, and boy, did it make me think. It's not the sort of book that you just read for sheer enjoyment. Like, you have to have your head engaged in this book, or you will just give up and throw it out, throw it up against a wall, burn it, all of those are possible reactions to this book. And that is Pamela by Samuel Richardson. There was a lot to hate in this story. There were some things to love about this story. There were things, mostly what I think about this book is that it was definitely intellectually stimulating for me personally, because it challenged me on a variety of levels. It made me think. It made me analyze the text. It made me research the time. It made me research the context of the story in which it was written. It made me try to understand, to put myself back in that time frame, the 18th century, to understand what it was about this story that made it so popular and such a huge hit in its day. Why do people love it so much? I also wanted to understand how it was so foundational to the development of the English novel. I wanted to understand why Jane Austen loved it so much. So Pamela by Samuel Richardson, of all the books that I have read in the past year or two, is definitely one that made me think very deeply. It challenged me intellectually, and I really enjoyed all of the research rabbit trails that it led me on, and the tangled knots of thinking through various aspects of the story and understanding the themes and the context that Samuel Richardson was coming from. This was definitely a book that I enjoyed for sure. Intellectually, not just for the fun of reading. And then Marianne, who represents the sensibility in Sense and Sensibility, and therefore her prompt is a book that made you feel. And the answer to this one came immediately to my mind because I just recently finished this book. And if you have been watching my videos closely, you might know where I'm going here, because I did mention multiple times that this book just had all the emotions in it. Just thoroughly, you just really feel what the characters are feeling, and it runs the gamut of human emotions. There's intrigue, there's revenge, there's feelings of intense sadness and depression and grief. There are passionate feelings of love. There are feelings of anger and desire. There are feelings of betrayal, and everything, every human emotional experience is represented in this book, and the author takes you on a journey with each of these characters so that you feel each of these emotions as they are experiencing them. It's definitely an emotional ride, and therefore I recommend The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas for this prompt, a book that made me feel, for sure, 100%. If you haven't ever read it, it's long, but it's definitely an enjoyable ride because it's very emotionally invested. It's not a dry story at all, and you definitely get really into the characters' hearts and minds, and you feel with them along the way through the story. Moving on to Emma, a book that you want everyone to read. So we all know, well, if you've read Emma, you know Emma's primary characteristic is that she is trying to manage everyone's life, meanwhile completely mismanaging her own life, which is, you know, how it usually happens with managing people. They usually try to manage everybody else's life while their life is in complete and utter shambles and disarray. Emma is no exception to that, and she's always trying to manage everybody's life. She always thinks that she knows what everybody else likes, or what they want, or what is best for them. And so the task here is to choose a book that you recommend for everybody, that you think that everybody would like and everybody should read. Now, the first answer that came to my mind for this prompt was the Bible, because I do think that the Bible is for everyone, and I do wish that everyone would read the Bible. It has wisdom, it has truth, it has insight for every person, and every person needs to read the Bible at least once in their life, preferably on a regular basis. It is the most life-changing when you read it on a regular basis and you really take its truths to heart. So the Bible is the first answer. But that kind of feels like when you're in Sunday school and the answer to every question is God, like a cop-out question, you know. So I also thought of another one, not on the same level, of course, but it's one book that comes to mind when people ask for recommendations, because I think it's universally appealing. Children as young as 12 years old, maybe even the 10 to 12-year-old range, would enjoy this book because the narrator of the story is a 12-year-old boy. And there's plenty of potty humor and the like in the story. Not so much that it makes it annoying for the adult reader, but definitely enough to make it enjoyable for a preteen reader, boy or girl. And there is enough in here to intellectually stimulate a mature reader and an advanced reader, an adult. And also, there is enough story here to enchant everyone. And the way that the story is told is in such an enchanting way, weaving different threads together to create such a beautiful story with wonderful themes. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and everyone I know who has read it has also thoroughly enjoyed it. And that is Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nairi. I have not read anything else by him. I think they're also very good, but I think this story was very personal for him, and that really comes true. It comes through in the telling of it, and I think that's part of what makes it so special. And I think no matter what your typical reading style is or what you typically prefer to read, I think you will enjoy this. A little warning, the storytelling is unique because he's telling it from a Persian folktale style, and so it's not linear in the same way that we're used to in the Western storytelling tradition. So you have to understand that at the outset when you go into it. It's not going to be quite like that. It jumps around quite a bit. Sometimes you wonder, what does this have to do with anything else in this story? But he's definitely weaving it all together. And if you just hang in there and just bear with it, it all comes together so beautifully and weaves a beautiful tapestry, which is kind of the whole point of what he's trying to do here. I really enjoyed this book, and I think everybody would enjoy it also. Then we have Catherine from Northanger Abbey, and the prompt is a book that gave you goosebumps. Now, I don't read a lot of suspense or a lot of thrillers, so I don't have a lot to offer in this category, and the book that I'm going to suggest for some people may not be spooky enough or atmospheric enough to really give you the heebie-jeebies or the goosebumps. For me, it definitely created that spooky atmosphere. I don't know that I actually had goosebumps while I read it, but I definitely was getting those vibes. And that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. And of all of the gothic type spooky books that I've read that are supposed to give you chills or goosebumps along those lines, this one is my favorite by far. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole experience reading this book, and I loved almost everything about it. Maybe not quite 100% everything, but almost everything about it. Thoroughly enjoyed my time with this book, 100%. Then we have Fanny from Mansfield Park, and Fanny in the story goes very much unnoticed by so many people in her extended family and even in her own family. Although she is a vital part of their lives, she's just not recognized as such, and she is not noticed or given enough attention or consideration by the people who should care the most about her, even though she is very considerate and caring for all of the people around her. So the prompt for Fanny is a book that you love and wish would get more notice. And then what I'm going to say may surprise you, because I think in the circles that I run in BookTube, a lot of people are familiar with this book. But in the wider world of readers, this book, or rather series, is independently published, and so it does not have as much name recognition as other popular books of today. It's nowhere near the status of bestsellers, current popular books that are making their rounds. So there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of readers out there who have never heard of these books, who I think would absolutely love them. And that is the Emma M. Lyon series by Beth Brower. The full title is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. And currently there are 8 volumes published. I've read 5 of them. I'm going to be picking up volume 6 here very soon. I have enjoyed every single one that I've read. They're all 4 or 5 star books for me. Incredibly, just so fun to read, so easily readable because it's in the form of journal entries. So none of the entries are very long at all. So you feel like you go very quickly through the book. It's charming, it's witty, it's whimsical, it's enchanting. They're just a delightful read. I don't have enough positive words to say because I really have enjoyed thoroughly my experience of reading Emma M. Lyon, and I highly recommend, and I wish that they were, like #1 New York Times bestsellers, because I think that they're worth it. They're just really well-written books. Then we have Anne from Persuasion, a book you read a long time ago and loved, but you're not sure how you feel about it now. And this one is actually on my list to reread this year or in the near future, because it has easily been 20 years since I last read this book. And I'm not sure, I know I loved it then, but I'm not sure if I would love it now. I've heard people talking about it recently who raised some excellent points about some possible flaws in the book and the storyline and the characters. So I don't know. I don't know how I would think about it now as a more mature reader. I don't know if I would love it as much as I loved it then. And that is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Now, of course, I love the musical Phantom of the Opera, no question. It's been a top musical for many years, for good reason. It's a very well-written musical, and I love the story as represented in the musical, but I don't know about the book, and it's been so long since I read it. I have no idea if the book is actually, I don't know what's better, the book or the musical. I have no idea. So I do want to reread it and figure it out, but I am not sure. I'm not sure if I would love it now like I loved it when I read it 20 some years ago. And finally, one of Austen's lesser known heroines, although she's not really a heroine. She is the female protagonist in the story, the main female character. I don't really know what we should call her, because she's definitely not a good girl. And Jane Austen is not trying to portray her as such. She's not trying to portray her as admirable. Rather, we are more supposed to be struck by her deficiencies of character and, in a sense, amused by them, but at the same time acknowledging that it creates a great deal of heartache for other people in this story. So the prompt for Lady Susan is a villain that you love or love to hate. And when thinking about villains in stories, the one that stands out to me the most, and I read this story maybe a year ago at the most, Iago from Othello by Shakespeare. And Iago was, I feel like that's the primary reason why Othello is one of Shakespeare's top plays that people are familiar with, that are performed, etc. Because Iago is just a fascinating villain. He is so manipulative and sneaky, and he manages to wreak his revenge or his evil plot in just the most manipulative way, and the most, kind of oozing charm, all the while never being suspected for what he truly is by the people who should know better. So Iago definitely came to mind as a villain that you love to hate. He's just such a well-crafted villain. He earns the top spot there. Finally, the last prompt is to tag some BookTube heroines or heroes. as the case may be. And so I am going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Bethany, and I'm going to tag Morgan. And of course, Charlene is going to be doing this tag video also, and I will link to her video when she has it ready. And let's see, who else should I tag? And I'm going to tag Kelly and Sarah. So tag your it. And also, anyone who wants to do this tag, feel free. Jane Austen July is coming up around the corner. So anytime, any time of year is a good time to do a Jane Austen tag, but July is a really good time to do a Jane Austen tag. Or right now. You can turn around right now and do it if you want. Anyways, tag your it. Consider yourself tagged. I look forward to watching your videos. Be sure to tag me and Charlene when you make this video so that we can come and watch your answers to these prompts. Let me know in the comments below what books you would choose for some of these prompts, and if you agree with my choices for some of these. And I will see you next time. Bye.